industry leaders in cybersecurity.
If you're fake, people know you fake.
Describing the behavior of the most sophisticated actors in the space, it was considered to be not worth your time.
Do it because you love it.
Any computer problem was to wipe and reinstall your stuff.
Like I got to dive into the mindset.
How beneficial this tool is, how impactful.
To get access to all this mind share.
That's the creative process, the process of trying.
Welcome to Hack Chat. My name is Marco Figueroa, and today I have a special guest. I've known this guy for a very, very long time. I even forgot the first time I met him. But I always remember meeting up with him at ShmooCon. Chris Gates, the man, also known as Cardinal Onich. How are you doing, sir?
I'm good, man. How are you? Thanks for having me on.
Oh, man, I'm excited about this. I am super excited because, you know, there's a lot of things I want to go over. I know people that will watch this is going to take a lot from it, right? One thing I wanted to start with, can you let the viewers know your background, how you got into the game?
How I got into the game. How far back do we want to go?
Go for it. Go for it.
So I didn't know anything about computers until I was in college. I'm not one of those guys that had like a Commodore 64 or anything like that. We couldn't really afford any of that stuff. But I was in college, and the solution to any computer problem was to wipe and reinstall your stuff. And so most people know West Point grad. Mm-hmm. So that was the solution. Anytime your computer had a problem, they said, bring it in, they'd wipe it, you get it back. All your stuff would be gone. So all your MP3s, all your other things would be gone, all your docs. And so after a while, I got tired of doing that. So I started fixing it myself. And that's how I got started into like computers. Yeah. It wasn't until I got in trouble at school. I think I've told the story before, but I got in trouble at school. I graduated late. And in that summer that I had the extra summer, they took me to DEF CON 10. And it was there on the top of the Alexis Park, that hot ass tent. Jeremiah Grossman was talking about cross-site scripting, and Bruce Potter was up there talking about cracking web. And that's when I realized, like, these are my people. This is what I wanted to do. And that was my turning point. That's when I knew what I wanted to do was at DEF CON 10.
Man, you brought me back to that hot ass tent.
It was hot.
I'm not going to lie. I was always, most of the time I was in the room watching it in the Alexis Park because it was just too hot up there on the tent. But one thing I didn't know, you went to West Point.
Yeah, I'm West Point grad.
So when I was in junior college, I played baseball, and we used to play West Point once a year. How was it like? Were you there all 4 years?
Yeah, no, from like 98 to 2002 and a little into December 2002. So I was there when 9/11 happened. So that was big. You know, when I joined the military, it was Gulf War was over. We were kind of in like peacetime, if you will, and then 9/11 happened. So it was, weird times. Very thankful for my service, thankful to still be here. I was honored to get to do those things. But I don't know. I wouldn't recommend it to my kids. Like, it's not your traditional like school where you get to have. I wouldn't say I had fun.
No, I heard about the freshmen's. When you enter, no TV, you study all the time, you do a lot of things. I was like, nope, I'll never come here.
Yeah, their whole thing is giving you more things to do than you have time to do it. Mm-hmm. And like, they do that on purpose. Like, you're taking huge course loads. They know that you can't complete all the homework that you have. So you very quickly learn to prioritize what is immediately important. And that it sucks at the time, but then when you're in the military, or even now, like if someone gave me a list of things to do, I can very quickly say, okay, well, I can rank order them in my head and say, okay, well, this one can wait till tomorrow. This one can wait till never, or I'll wait till someone brings it up again. And you just learn how to just prioritize. And that's a skill that I don't think a lot of people have, or it's harder to learn, but I had, 4 or 5 years of it.
Nice.
Pretty good at it now.
Yeah. What have you been up to in the last 2 years in terms of your career in depth?
Yeah, so I made the jump from being like an IC and like an engineer on a red team to running them. For many years I was like, oh, I want to know what it's like to build out a red team, because every 20-something, 30-something year old can do it better than the other guy. And it's not until you actually start doing it that you realize how hard something is. But yeah, so I was at 100x before that. We built out the red team function there, really the offensive security function. I think a lot of people get triggered on the red team word and what that means. And so I really like to think of offensive security as doing the purple teaming, the pen testing, and the red teaming, really, validating assumptions. My big thing, and my pitch for the team is always like, I validate assumptions that the company makes around security, all things, right? So you think this is good. We think you do this, it will happen. So it's my job to make sure that that actually happens. And then if it does happen, great. How do I get around that? How do I bypass that? How do I make it so you don't see me? That's really how I start to summarize what my team is up to and what they do. So yeah, built a team out there, just recently jumped. Now I'm at Robinhood building out their red team function there.
Nice.
So really excited for that opportunity.
One of the cool things that I've noticed, I maybe we don't speak every month, right? But what I do is, I always have, my notifications turned on when you tweet or when you're on LinkedIn. And it feels like you're so strategic when you're moving jobs. Some people stay at jobs too long and maybe a year, but it feels like you are just right. Every move you make is very strategic. And, my thought was like, you were going to stay at Facebook for, I don't even know, right? Especially you got to present in front of Zuck, and that was awesome. And I seen pictures of that. Yeah. And it just seems like when you move, it's like, wow, very strategic. What goes behind that?
It's a lot of what we talked about on the other time was it's a lot of the universe looking out for me and putting things in just right, bring them up right when I need to. There was some challenges at the previous job, and about the time that I decided I was ready to work at another place, like the person that ended up hiring me just reached out. It was like, hey, I have this position open. I think you'd be great for it. I was like, awesome, let's go talk about it. And that's really happened. My getting into Facebook was the manager there knew me from Twitter, and he's kind of private, so I won't say who it is, but he just reached out and was like, hey, I have this position open. I think you'd be a good fit for it. And it was the offensive security engineer. I was like the first offensive security engineer at Facebook. And it was a great fit. It was everything that I wanted to do. It was all the things that I had been missing in my consultant life. Because really, as a consultant, I was really struggling with how long it took people to get better or seeing the results of your work. So you spend all this work, a week or two on somebody, and you actually don't see what happens after you leave. And It's quite frustrating. It becomes frustrating. For a while, you don't care. And maybe some people don't care. It started to bother me that I was doing all this work and I didn't actually see that people were improving with all the effort that I put into the test. And when you go internal and you start working on internal teams, it really starts to become something you can follow and track. But more importantly, and what's harder is starts to actually become your problem. Consultant land, you just throw the report over and you're like, good luck. Yep, see ya. And then it was the story I tell about that is, my first real big pen test at Facebook. I did that. I found a bunch of stuff. And I was like, yep, this is broken. Good luck. And my manager was like, nope. How do they fix it? And I was like, why? It's like, because we fix things. We're not just problem creators or problem finders. We fix things. And so he made me go back. I'm trying to think. It was like a Jenkins issue, and it was around like unauthenticated things. So I went and installed like every plugin that they had for different authentications and decided, of the multitude of ways you could do authentications in Jenkins, which one should Facebook use for that environment that I found it in. And I did the work and I wrote up the wiki page on how to do it. And then I went and found all the ones that were broken and messaged and found and tracked down the owners of these systems, and it got fixed. And then there was an article on how to fix it. And it felt really good. That was probably the first thing I'd ever really fixed and felt like it would be fixed forever.
Wow.
Because, consulting, like it's a new company every week.
Yeah.
Something new broke and you have no idea if they'll fix it. And a lot of times you show up next year, it's still broke. So that felt really, really good. And that's when I really got the taste of like doing internal OffSec and what you can actually accomplish there. And it actually, working at Facebook actually gave me hope that people could be secure because they have a really good program. They're throwing a lot of money. They were throwing a lot of money at the program, but really good program. And that was the first place I had been, except for maybe one or two clients at Laura's. that I thought that I had seen with my own two eyes, seen them improve and get better over time. And yeah, I was like, oh, maybe it's not as dire as it seems. Maybe people can actually have a decent program and actually put up a fight against these people.
For the people that don't know you, can you ramble off some of the names, some of the company names you worked at? We already talked about Facebook. Go ahead.
Oh, let's see. Started out when I got out of the military, U.S. Army Red Team. Then went to Booz Allen for a short stint. I did a very, very short stint at as on a US.gov contract. That's what really set me in motion of nothing can be fixed. Where else? Applied Security, which I don't even know if they still exist. It was, this is all like Red Team work. Rapid7. Then Lares for a couple years, 3 years, 4 years. Yeah, Facebook, Uber, Cruise, 100X, and now Robinhood.
It's quite a list. I want to go into something because it's very interesting, right? We're all friends here. Chris, you and I. How was that conversation to tell such a good friend, hey, I'm going to move on? I know, where you moved on, but what does that it's hard sometimes to have that conversation just in general, right? But having it with such a good friend that, and I know after, you guys are best friends as well, to this day, but how is that conversation like? Like, man, that's a tough conversation to hey, I'm out.
How do you break up with your best friend? Right? Like, that's what it felt like.
Yeah.
How did that go? It didn't, it wasn't easy. I cried, he cried.
Absolutely.
Him and Eric are family. They're still family.
Yeah.
We, go on vacations together. We all know each other's kids. It was hard.
You was there for 3 or 4 years, man.
Yeah, it was a long time. And we've been friends since, since Chicago Con back in 2000. See, I went there in 2007, 2006. So we've been friends for almost 15, 20 years.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. I think you introduced me. I know it was in Maryland. I think it was one of the cons. I think, me and Chris got tight at your conference that you had the one day, I believe.
Oh, the ShmoocCon epilogue stuff?
Yeah, the epilogue stuff when he was there. And Chris is the one that put me on to headphones.
Yeah.
Just a side story. Chris is flying back to Denver, and he's he had to get some stuff, and he just opens up his bag and he takes out 5 headphones, and I was like, "What? Why?" He was like, "Let me break it down. Sit down, son."
Yep.
And I was just ever since then, I'm a headphone junkie. But I know those conversations is tough, and man, I always wondered that, man, having that conversation with such a good friend, how hard it could be to be it's tough.
I felt like I was letting somebody down that I did care about and still do care about. And, in all honesty, I did, right? Because, I was leaving the company. It was really, so, and I think we talked about someone, I was really depressed. I just didn't know it, right? Yeah. All the military stuff, admitting to that, and mental health, any mental health stuff is, you're just considered weak in the military if you're having some sort of issue. And I was still in that mindset of well, I'm not weak, or if I admit these things, I lose this. I could lose all these different things by admitting that I have a problem. I job top a lot because I thought that it was something external. I thought that it was the external job that was causing me the unhappiness, and not understanding it was myself, how much I love myself, what I thought of myself, the things I told to myself. That was actually the problem. And it wasn't until I started doing self-work that I started to understand it wasn't the external, it was the internal that was the problem. That's why it wasn't, I would say it was less strategic awesomeness, of me job hopping is I would be I hate this place. This place is the worst. The next place will be better. And it's the same thing everywhere you go. It's just the faces change. And it's me. It was me. It took me realizing that it was me and hitting rock bottom before that turned around.
Yeah. How much have you grown during COVID, technically, mentally, emotionally?
Probably could be better technically. I'd say it's been a challenge to, because we spent, I mean, those of us that are remote all the time, even then I wasn't on Zoom all day. And I ended up, my Zoom usage probably doubled or tripled, as did pretty much everyone on the planets. It's been a challenge to want to keep sitting in front of the computer when someone's not making me do it because I'm in a meeting. So I would say I did less technical stuff, but I did have some budget at the last place. So we bought some training and did some things, and I had free reign to break into hack into whatever we wanted to at work. So there was no shortage of oh, I wonder what happens when I do this. And so we were able to do that. And
Nice.
Emotionally, I mean, I think same challenge that everyone has, I went from having no one in my house all day for 10 years to having everyone in my house all day for a year. Super difficult, challenging transition. We got through it as a family. Definitely had to upgrade the internet to make it all happen. But yeah, and then I did a lot of spiritual work, because this whole thing really made me think about, you have to think about your, I don't know, it ends, and it could end. And, we had lots, probably all know someone that passed away or almost passed away or got really sick with that. And really makes you think about the finiteness of life. What are you doing with your life? I think a lot about the if then kind of thing of if I make this much money, then I'm happy, or then I'm content, or if I have this job title, if I have this thing, then I'll be happy, or I'll be content. And it really made me think about what am I putting on hold in my life? What am I putting my happiness on hold for? And should I keep doing that? And so that helped with wanting to transition into a new position. That helped, I bought the car that I always wanted to buy, because I was what, I have no guarantee that I'm going to be alive next year.
What is the car? You have to.
I got a Range Rover Sport.
Oh, nice. For that 6 range. For that 6 range, the Sport Range Rover.
Yeah, Range Rover Sport.
Yeah,
I got the supercharged V8. So it's a race car. It's the thing I always wanted. It's the car I always wanted. I didn't really want, after I outgrew the Lamborghini Countach stage of life, everyone goes through. That's the car that I always wanted. And I was waiting and waiting and waiting. And I was you know what? I have no guarantee that I'm going to be alive next week. And at least now I can drive this car as fast as I want to drive it and enjoy everything that it has to offer, and have the life experience of owning a car like this. So I did it. Still a little scary every month when I pay the note, but
you have to send me a video you driving it. I want to see. I definitely want to see it. Send me some pictures. One of the things that I love is the things you tweet out. Positivity. You're always learning. Do you feel like you constantly are still in that mode of learning new things and growing?
All the time. And I think every time I think I get to where I'm getting a little too big for my britches, I'll have a conversation with someone and get put right back in my place of man, I still have a lot more work to do. I love it. I mean, I'd say I really think of spirituality and hacking as really the intersection of success as a human on this planet. Hackers, we do things people don't think are possible. We do that every day. Think of all the people that have broken into systems or just changed things or figured the things that the hacking community has done over my lifetime is just, it's mind boggling. We pushed the state of technology so far. And when you apply that to spirituality and what you can do with metaphysics, I think it's a natural and beautiful intersection of what you can do as a human, to take that hacker mindset along with doing things in the reality that we operate in, and using law of attraction, using law of one, doing energy work, doing those other things that are supposedly impossible to do, but then you do them and you have those experiences and you're left with this me and another person 1,000 miles away had the same experience.
Yes, sir.
How do you explain that, right? Because I've done Reiki,
Yeah.
doing other things. Like there's no explanation except for energy and it working. The fact that you and I can do energy work and we experience it in the same way or in a similar way. So like,
Absolutely.
that's just but that's hacker. I mean, that's hacker stuff. That's what we do. That's why I don't know if people think it's annoying, but I love it because I'm just doing it's superhero stuff, right? You're bringing out your superhero qualities that all humans have, and we're just told that we can't do, but you can. That's exactly what hackers do all the time. So I
Exactly.
love it. So
Exactly.
yeah, it's no different.
I've seen your growth over multiple years. I want to say over 10.
Yeah, at least.
What was that going through? How did you get better, right? Every year it felt like you were doing another talk at Black Hat or another talk at ShmooCon. And the growth, like your growth spurt, the blogs you were putting out, I was like, how the hell does he have so much time to not only write all these blogs, but then have different, you would present completely like different from the blog posts that you would put out. Number one, how much time were you putting in? Because that's something that I want to know. How much time were you putting in, and where did you find the time to get all of that, like just reps in the game in?
Good question. It helped as a consultant because I got to see new tech every week. That helped drive a lot of that stuff. A lot of those blog posts came from just what I had to figure out on an assessment. And I think you can see, like, if you go back and track my LinkedIn versus before, when I switched to doing internal stuff, the posts actually started to slow down because I could no longer, if I said, oh, I use this exploit at work, everyone knew where I worked. And they're like, oh, so Facebook's vulnerable to this, huh?
Yeah.
So that slowed down. But I mean, part of it is like I was doing law of attraction and didn't know it because when I got out in the military, they teach you, your 3, 5, 10-year plan. I did that. I had a great mentor, Greg Conti. He's in our community now. He's out and he's in the hacking community now. He really helped me like develop that list of things I want to do and help me make a plan to achieve those. And a lot of those was like, be regarded as someone that knew what he was talking about in the industry. I had no idea how to do that, but I knew I needed to give talks to do that. Because I looked at the people that would give talks and who were like, probably like some early people like Dan Kaminsky, Dave Vitale, who would be posting on these mailing lists and just putting this just absolute great content out. And look at the careers they had, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, I don't think I'll ever be as good as those guys, but they were some of the ones that inspired me to do those things. And at the time, that was kind of before Twitch, before Twitter. That was really, I felt was the only way to get your name out there was to give talks and to do blogs. So I was like, well, this is what I want to do. This is what I think will make me like myself and make other people think I'm good at this. So I just did it. And then I had tons of great friends and help around, like Nuvix was awesome. We've done tons of talks together, and Ken Johnson, and I've been blessed enough to have really great friendships and friends that have people that have wanted to give talks to me and do that. And then I have, I have an inclination to be a teacher and guide. So like I derive value. I don't know if I derive value during the talk, but I derive value after the talk of like having given the talk and having shared things and having people say they got something from the talk or they've got something from the blog post. That I derive a lot of value from helping people in that way. I didn't know it at the time. I've kind of since learned like that's kind of more my thing. That's why I enjoy that, even though at the time I didn't have like a reason for it. So
Yeah, I mean, I just found out about that at least maybe like 2 or 3 months ago, right? About myself, because I've been writing blog posts at Sentinel One, and if you look at my blog posts, I think I have 6 now in like 6 months. All of them are teaching how to do something. Yeah, this is cool, this threat intelligence, and this is how I pivoted, but this is how I got down to, and it's more of like teaching. So I noticed that about myself. One thing, I had a quick question. You were saying a lot of the bulk of your work was when you were consulting. And what I like to do is go behind I just want to go into your mind and say, okay, you're on an assessment, you're learning something new. What is that process like? And the reason why I'm asking you is because people are coming into the game that are going to watch this and they want to understand how they tackle something like a new protocol that you haven't worked on, or, an assessment on Oracle databases or whatever the case is. What is your process and what mindset do you take into it?
Yeah, honestly, a lot of my process is installing it and looking, what am I clicking yes to? What are the defaults? What are the implications of the things that are already filled out for me? Like a great example with Oracle, a lot of the stuff that you would break into Oracle with was just defaults, just clicking through the installer. So my process, yeah, when I have to, like, I've come across a new technology, we can talk like this, talk Kubernetes, for example. You just go through and start installing it and saying, okay, how does this run? How do most people install this? What do all the guides say? What does Stack Overflow? Because I'm looking at that to get it installed and running. And you say, okay, then it's kind of a little boring, but I'll read the manual, read the docs, and just start saying, okay, this is what this thing expects me to do. How can I do something else? Just that's really how I approach this. What can I do that I'm not supposed to do here? I don't know if that's making it too simple, but that's really is the process. Is as you're going through it, as you're installing it, as you're doing the configs, what could somebody do here to make a mistake? What could someone do that's a default, that's an insecure default? And then just start playing and fuzzing with that. That's my process for the most part, especially on a technology that doesn't have a lot of posts. Like obviously now if you're looking at Kubernetes, there's hundreds of blog posts on breaking into Kubernetes or whatever. But that's still my process for something that hasn't been looked at. Is let's install it. Let's read what the instructions say to do and start poking and saying, okay, how do I get to that account? That's a new account. I didn't see that in there. What's the password for that? Is it random or is it something easy? How do I get to it? Yeah, that's really the process.
That's what's up. You've built Nova Hackers. I believe you started in 2012. Was it 2012 or 2013? No, earlier than that, I believe.
Yeah, probably earlier than that. Yeah, Rob Fuller and I put that together.
Yeah, what was the idea behind that?
Yeah, I love the story. At the time, there was probably like 2 or 3 there was an OWASP kind of group. There was NovaSec that was run by Richard Balick. Mm-hmm. And then there was one other group. And so I just moved here, and I don't know, I selfishly wanted to know all these. There's a lot of great hackers in the Nova area. And I'm actually, this, I'm shy around people I don't know. So it was like hard to make friends, and it was hard to know these people that I wanted to know. But I also felt like the OWASP meetings, you would show up, you would eat pizza, someone would give a talk, and then you would leave. And there was not really a chance to get to know anybody except for the speaker. Mm-hmm. So AHA was the thing. So the Austin Hackers was a thing, and their thing was you had to give a talk. And I was like, I love that. At the time it was really hardcore about you need to participate and, do your fair share. But then it really became, if you come up and speak, then I get to learn who you are. And that's really probably the magic there is you're giving back to your community, but you're also getting yourself known, and it makes it easier to make friends, and all that. So because that group didn't exist, none of the existing groups really wanted to go to that model. Rob and I said, let's try to make this happen. And, poached a few people from different places and started the group up, and it just really took off from there. And we still have a really strong core group of people that have been there from the beginning, like Info Janitor and Craig Bowser and some other guys. And the core group of people are amazing. Definitely family at this point.
Are you guys meeting up online?
Mm-hmm. We still do them virtually.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Man, I met a lot of people at Nova. I loved it. Explain, what does it take in your eyes to be a good red teamer? You've been doing it for so long.
Red teamer. That's a good question, man. I would say ask, what does Chris Nickerson say? That would be my answer.
Hard work.
Hard work.
Hit the pavement. Get on the grind.
I shouldn't have finished watching that before we got on here. What does it take to be successful there? You need to. I'm trying to think of things that aren't cliche to say. It helps to start to understand how different things go together. So he has that amazing Venn diagram that he created, and with the social, electronic, and physical. I think anybody that wants to red team or is a red team should really study and understand that three-circle Venn diagram. That really is the intersections of those things are things that I still think people don't understand. And why the great example of like the intersection of physical and electronic, where you break into a building and get into the network from that perspective, right? Because those are breakdowns of two vastly different teams. Because physical security and IT security almost never talk to each other unless they have to. So those edges where two different teams intersect create a lot of vulnerability. So that's one thing. I think a good red teamer, in 2021 and beyond, needs to understand defenses but also how do you fix the things that you're finding. That's probably a shortcoming I do see with a lot of people is and it's not their fault. It's just, they're in the same spot that I was in, which is like, I just find broken shit, and that's my job, is to find broken things and throw it over the fence at you.
Yeah.
It takes a lot to elevate and evolve your mind into, your metric being how many things did I fix? And as a consultant, it's still very difficult to make that your own metric. Internal red teams can shift to that though. And that's what I've done on my teams is we don't track broken things. We track the things that we fixed. Like the completion of that engagement, or the completion of that thing is that the thing is fixed. And I track that and I keep up with it. And before that was somebody else's problem. And it's only now that I've made it my problem that I'm incentivized to nag people until they fix it. Because I don't get to close the Jira ticket out or whatever until it's fixed. Technical ability, obviously, mindset, passion. I hate the word passion these days, but I'd say drive to learn and do things. You have to be creative. You have to, especially when you're doing the social stuff. And I personally feel like the social engineering and like phishing is getting harder and harder and harder, especially with I would say like the lack of current payloads of things. You've got to get crafty. You've got to get out of the box. You've got to keep trying. And you've only got so many whacks at it usually. So you need to put hard work into, do the grind, do the hard work to get a good payload, test your payloads. I've made so many monumental mistakes over the years doing stuff. And be willing to make mistakes, I think, is another key thing. I really like to say play and explore. You really need to be willing to play and explore. And as part of that, you're going to make mistakes. You're going to do things that didn't go well. You're going to do things that just flat out didn't work. But that play and exploration is really where the success lies in the willingness to do that.
Who has mentored you over your amazing career? I know you mentioned one person earlier that was in the Army with you. I like to give people their flowers, and I know you could go ahead and shout them out and give them some love because your career speaks volumes, the work that you've put out there.
Yeah, man, put me on the spot. Joe McRae. I would not be where I'm at today without Joe McRae and that man's infinite amount of patience.
Shout out to Joe.
Yeah, Joe. Greg Conti, Chris Nickerson, Eric Smith for sure. I'll say Adam Yu. He was at Applied Security with me. Amazing person. Really taught me a lot. Mubix, of course. I'd say you and your brother helped me out along the ways a lot. I'm sure I'm going to forget a million people. And like, what the fuck, bro? There's really too many. All the Nova Hacker people, they've come to me. We've had conversations. Like that has been an invaluable resource for having questions answered. Almost all my talks were given at Nova Hackers first. and all the honest feedback I got from the people there have made me give much more improved talks. And I'm sure I'm forgetting people. Hayden Johnson was actually someone I mentored, but it's the mentee relationship is always it always turns on you during the process of where the mentee becomes the mentor. I'm actually a big believer in being mentored by younger people, because they are, one, the future, but two, they look at things different than I do. So I think it's really important for 30-year-old plus people to find the late teens, early 20s people to mentor them, because they are thinking about problems so differently than we had to.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, also very important. John Cran. I'm sure I'm forgetting people. If I forgot you, I'm so sorry. He didn't give me the question ahead of time.
What advice?
Prepared a long list.
What advice can you give someone, our viewers out there, to find a mentor? Right? For me, I always felt like if I wanted to know a subject, I look to, who's the leader in there, who's putting out the most content, and try to figure out, read their white paper and do that. What would you recommend for someone finding a mentor?
I mean, there's been a couple groups. I don't know if they're still active where you could apply to be one or the other. I guess if I was given some advice, I would say there's probably one or two people that you look up to for a variety of reasons, or one reason or the other, and to just ask. I think most people want to give the time. No one in our position would be where we were without mentors. I think most of us are willing to pay it forward and repay that to someone that asks. I would just say, as a mentee, be prepared to do the things that they ask. Within reason. You need to put in, I think you got to put in the work.
I agree.
Not
only do I agree, sorry about that. Not only do I agree with that, but for me, I always tell people you should have multiple mentors, not only in cybersecurity, but financially, health, wealth, everything in between. The more information you can consume, the better decisions you're going to make to get to that next level. And it's always about getting to that next level.
Yeah. Let me add a little more to that before I lose my train of thought on it.
Sure.
Mentors should be thought more of as coaches than teachers. And I think that's where people get lost, is they want someone to teach. People are like, I want you to teach me this. No, a mentor is a coach. You're going to tell them what you want to achieve, and they're going to help you come up with a plan to do it. And then it's up to you to do it. Now, if I have time, I might check in on you occasionally, but we've come up with that plan together, or I've said, this is what I did to achieve that thing. You may or may not have to follow the same path, most likely not. But let's come up with a couple things for you to try, and then let's check back in with me. Or like, I want to know this topic. Well, this book is great for that topic. These couple talks are great for that topic. Why don't you go watch them and then come back and ask me questions, and then we'll do the next round of that. I think people get lost and they think a mentor is supposed to teach them. They're a coach. And coaches don't teach. They help you do the things that you have set out to accomplish. Right? Just like every basketball coach, he's not out there playing. He's instructing them to use their talents in the most effective way to win the game. And I don't think people think about the problem that way. But if they do, that will help them, I think, get more out of their mentee relationship.
Yeah. When people ask me to mentor them, I say, no problem. You got to do me a favor. Before we begin, you got to read 3 books for me.
Nice. What are those books?
The 50th Law, of course. Mastery. And the third one, The Art of Learning.
Oh, nice.
And I just give that to them, and 90% do not come back.
Yep.
And that's fine. And that's fine, because this is what I want. I want to put that buffer and say, hey, this is the skills you need. You're going to have to, mastery. It's a huge book, but those are like, I have like 5 different books that I like to give out, but those are the 3 I always give out. And that's where I learned triggers, like the art of learning. It goes into how to build triggers, right? Where you have headphones with certain music and you have scent and you bring that in. And it's something that I always talk about because you need to learn about yourself, how to motivate yourself, how to get yourself in a positive mindset to start, hacking away. And for me, that's what I learned. And through books and understanding and having conversations like we're going to have, especially the next question I have for you, it is something that we're both passionate about, right? Because I read a few tweets that you do certain types of meditation and focusing and positivity. And for me, that is my North Star, to be positive, to send out positive vibes to people and give love. And that's what I've always tried to do. It's not something that I'm not, right? Every time it's always being positive. How did you make that transformation? I know you were talking about, you were not in a good space before, but you got into a good space. And especially during this time, that's something very important to talk about. And I wanted to ask you that.
Good question, man. Wow. How do you get positive? Where do I start? I guess I'll start like I as a hacker, I use myself as the person, the guinea pig on most of these things. And that helped because I would just try these things and see if they worked and see if they had me feeling any better. My journey started with hypnosis and past life regressions, where I got to see, that's, perhaps a touchy subject for people on here, but it helped me see that it started to open my eyes to be,
your truth.
It's my truth. So, it started to open my eyes to be, there being more to what I was being told, like, again, hackers know that on a large swath of things, but there's this other swath of things around metaphysics that is, you're crazy if you are into some of that stuff. But it opened the hypnosis opened me up to why some people are in my life, some other challenges I've had, the fact that we're eternal beings started to open my eyes to the fact that we're eternal beings. From there, it moved into the energy work, into Reiki. And when you learn Reiki 1, you do 30 days. You're supposed to do like 30 days straight of Reiki on yourself. And I was a different person at the end of that. That's what's up. I mean, anybody that's like meditated for 30 days straight, you've probably gotten a taste of that. But when you really start, because you're focusing on healing yourself and loving yourself. And up until that point, even at that point, I didn't like myself. I didn't love myself. I was never told I was good enough. We just get taught, a lot of us get taught that we're just not good enough, you're a sinner, you're a bad person, you're just everything's evil. When you get told that and you get indoctrinated into that, it sticks, because when you learn that as a child, it sticks into your adults. So
it messes you up. Stuff like that messes
you up. That's honestly why my kids don't go to church, because I want them. I'm all about a lot of that stuff. I'm all about them choosing that for themselves with a adult mind. But not too far on that side. But and then like life coaching, I found a coach and mentor, and we really worked on opening my heart. And that's forgiving people, forgiving myself, and really starting to love myself. And 10 years ago, I would have been like, what an asshole talking about loving yourself. But that really is the key, is you have to start to like who you are. And that is insanely difficult these days, because we're constantly bombarded with how not right or how not good enough we are, when almost everything that we engage in, everything we do, everything on social media, everything everywhere is you are not good, is telling you you're not good enough. And you have to start to spend that time to start to love yourself. And so a lot of healing, a lot of forgiveness, a lot of gratitude, really looking, and I do a lot of gratitude work. I really like to point people.
That is very, very important. I think self-affirmations is something that, I love to do, right? There's sometimes I'm just walking down my hall and I'm walking like Conor McGregor stop, and it's like, let's go.
Yeah.
Let's like I pump myself up, right? I don't need a hype man. I don't need other people to tell me. It's like, you got this. Let's go.
Yeah.
And it's,
I mean,
that self-love and affirmation and continually trying to grow and be a better person every day.
yeah, other people's bodies pick up on the vibration that you give out. And if you hate yourself, you're giving out that vibration, right? And when you get in close with someone and their bodies are doing that energetic thing, they feel the self-hate. And who wants to associate with self-hate? Nobody. So like if you're lonely and all that, and you also hate yourself, you have to change yourself. The idea is like, if reality is a reflection of who we are, when you look in a mirror, you don't change the reflection by putting your hand on the mirror. You have to change yourself to change the reflection. So you have to start to love yourself. And then, and again, all that starts with forgiveness, kindness, looking at things and the duality of things, looking for the positive in things, right? Because positive and negative are perceptions. My take on a thing is my perception of it.
Yep.
And you have to understand that's a personal thing. You can change it. So if you don't like your perception on it, you can reevaluate, and you can be free to reevaluate.
There's always that perspective in terms of having a glass either full or half empty. And for me, what I try to concentrate on is, what is going to be my champagne moment of the day? Can I create it? Am I going to create it? And if I am, in the morning, I try to create what is going to be my champagne moment of the day. Right. And then I also say, how am I going to prevent a glass from falling? And if it does fall and breaks, how am I going to react to it? And what are the possible things that could get me there?
Yep. Right.
And it's predicting that date. If I could prevent it, I can react a certain way, or I won't react to that if I predicted it. So I love what you're saying, because especially now, mental health is so important, because I have friends. I had a friend I spoke to last week. He was like, my dad died last year, and I'm still going through it because it was from COVID, right? I have a family member that passed away. I think it was earlier this year from COVID. So, there's a lot of stress as well as anxiety. You're going out, you haven't had that contact, you're still in this bubble. And then when you go out of the bubble, it's like fear, because whatever boogeyman's invisible. So it is a lot of stress. There is a lot of stress going on. How have you dealt with it?
It's exhausting. We went to a theme park last week for spring break, and they did a good job of social distancing, but it was utterly exhausting being around people again. I was completely spent for like 2 days after.
Yeah.
Not because we walked. Not because I was out in the sun too long, or because we walked really far, but I think it was just being around people again, because I haven't been around anybody for a year.
Yeah. And it's funny, because I was saying the same thing. I'm like, it's been over a year now. How's it going to be like when I go out into the office? Am I going to have like a little bit of social anxiety, as well as thinking, that potentially someone might have COVID, even though I had the vaccine? But this is the world we live in. And I think, you have to mentally prepare for that, right? And especially, I'm a caregiver, so my mother is of age where she's definitely a risk. So to me, my senses are even heightened when I'm in an area of something like that. So it's good to have this conversation, and I really haven't had this conversation in depth, because I think it's important to have and to share not only your experiences, but my experiences and some of the things that I do in the morning, right? I have a little routine to get me in that zone, right? I think exercise has put me in a zone of happiness in the mornings. I make sure I get that out of the way, and then eating right to fuel my day with positivity, because you're going to tell me you're going to feel better with, a Big Mac or something that is going to fuel your day, let's say with a protein bowl, of some sort and with lower
100%.
carbs, right? And I think that is understanding oneself and looking within themselves to be like yes or no. So
Yeah. The beauty of meditation is your body, when you start to be able to meditate, your body starts to tell you what you should and should not eat. And I think most people don't even need to be like great meditators. So I think a lot of times you're eating something and you're like, I probably shouldn't do this. Like your body is telling you, I don't need to eat this, but we do it anyway because it's a habit or we just think we need it.
And
your
I
body
want
is
to,
actually telling you what you should eat and what you shouldn't eat.
I definitely want to go back because I recall we were at ShmooCon and you had said something about how you weren't in a good space before and now. You smile way more, by the way. You smile way more. You were so like, you didn't even have a smile. Ever.
Being a grumpy asshole was my thing.
That was,
I thought that was, like, my
that was your
badge.
thing.
And I was like, I really, really appreciate anyone that put up with me through those years because I'm sure I was actually not fun to be around at all.
I mean, listen, your face was like hard as I would say, like,
I was unhappy.
like if
It
you
just
were in
couldn't
a
be
rap
worse.
video, that would think of like a hard DMX rap video. You would be on like the DMX, like in the car with him. That's what I would say. And compared to now, you're so vibrant, you're smiling, and it's so good to see you in that good space. And
I'll tell you. You want to know the secret?
absolutely, that's why I'm
Here's the secret, man. You are supposed to be in joy and feel good the majority of the time you're on this planet. That's it. We're not supposed to feel like shit. You're not supposed to be miserable. You're not supposed to be sad. You're going to have those moments because you need those challenge and transition moments to really fully enjoy the rest. You're not supposed to be miserable. You're supposed to be enjoying your life.
I love
When I
that.
started to actually understand that and then look more for those moments. If you look for negative shit, you're going to find negative things. If you look for positive things, I mean, you've taught me that. You taught me this. You're the most positive person I know in the business.
Thank you, man.
You're always in a good mood, always happy, always smiling. If you look for the positive, that's what you find. And
Yeah.
a million people have talked about this. That's really is the secret, is what are you looking for each day? And then some like sub secrets are how do I mentally get myself ready for that? And you were talking about some of those. A great book on that is like Indistractable by Neil Ear. Amazing book on like taking back the time from your day. But really it's your morning routine. Like you're talking about exercise, meditation. What are you consuming in the morning? What are you consuming mentally in the morning? Are you jumping on work emails? Are you jumping on Facebook and looking at negative shit first thing in the morning? Or do you do all your positive things in the morning? Do you look for positivity and start the day like that? And so like, I don't look at social media in the morning. I don't even do anything. Don't look at the price of Bitcoin until after I'm done with all those other things. And then the day is just, you're already off on a better start. And you are in control of your mornings most of the time. And there are obviously cases when you're not, but for the most part, adults are in control of their mornings for the most part.
I completely agree with you. Like if you look at a kid, 1 year old, 2 years old, unless they're always happy, they're always jumping. Even a 3 or 4 year old, they don't know any better.
Supposed to be unhappy.
Exactly, no one knows unless you have someone grumpy always on them. Then they're like, but they don't know.
Well, that's the way life is. Like, better enjoy it.
Yeah,
Life's
yeah,
gonna
yeah.
suck. You're
And
gonna
that's
work,
the-
and then you're gonna.
that's the
what
thing.
Everyone told me, and
Yep.
I was like, well, here I am. Third way through my life, and it sucks because everyone told me it was gonna suck. So I just expect it to suck. You know what? If you start turning that around, like, you know what? You're supposed to actually have a good day. You're supposed to have fun.
Yeah.
And that's what I do. I'm like, all right, it can be awful, and you can still have fun even though it's awful.
I think
and that's the best part.
one of the things that I always do in the morning when I wake up, and people might think it's cheesy, but I love to do it. You said it earlier about loving yourself. The first thing I do is love my heart, and I always thank my heart when I wake up. Thank you, heart. You didn't stop beating yesterday.
Yep.
Last night over. Thank you. I appreciate you. Thank you, heart. and I begin my day like, I appreciate you. You're not taken for granted. Thank you. And I begin my day, right? And that's, for me, that's my self-loving. Like, that's what gears me up to put me in that right mood. Like, thank you. I appreciate you. You know?
So, yeah, I mean, it's another day to literally, we're in an amazing simulation. You can do basically anything you want.
Yeah.
Right? You can say whatever you want. You can do whatever you want. Not that there's not consequences to those actions, but you're ultimately free. Yeah. So yeah, waking up and be like, I got another day to smash it. Right. Yeah. Like, and then there's other tricks. Like you can stack on like, what are my top couple things I want to do today to tell me mentally that I smashed it. Right.
Yeah. What is those champagne moments, right? Or what stuff you need to get you to that next level, right? It's not just checking off a to-do list and being upset you didn't check those to-do lists off, right? To-do lists are made to be done, and that's cool. But if you don't get to it, it's like, okay, I got it tomorrow. And I think, it's always about go, 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 but smell the roses, enjoy yourself.
Yeah, I'm laughing because I used to make these giant to-do lists and I never did them. So I actually worked with a coach and I switched to doing one work thing a day that I want to accomplish and one personal thing. That's it.
Nice.
I have 2 things a day that are on my list. And I obviously, in my mind, I want to get more things done. And there's obviously tons of stuff to do, but I can have my champagne moment if I get those 2 things done. And then the rest is just extra, right? And then you get the momentum going. There's a lot of tricks around getting the momentum going.
Oh yeah.
But the people that have those like page-long to-do lists, it just gives me anxiety.
Yeah, it's long. What I usually do is just write right there. Yep. If I get to it, I get to it. If I don't, hey, tomorrow. Yeah. If my manager says, hey, I need this done ASAP, okay, gotcha. It's ASAP. It's, all right, I got it. But if I'm doing something, it's like, all right, I'll do it right after I do this or whatever the case is. And it's like, look, at the end of the day, your best is your best you can do. Period.
I agree.
Your best is your best you could do. If it's not at the level that someone else wants you, well, that's their expectation.
Yeah, and did they even clearly define that expectation to you?
That
most likely they
now
didn't.
That is awesome, because a lot of times many people don't have that expectation, right? This is the expectation, and if you meet it or you can't meet it, also you got to negotiate. Hey, look, your expectation is unreasonable. Like, this is where it should be. I think, okay, where can we meet in the middle? Yeah. Or I could do more, and it's figuring out. Everything is a negotiation, and I love it, man. Chris, I appreciate it.
Expectations and boundaries are 2 things that are much better stated and enforced.
Yes.
So,
I think this right here, this is needed. And I hope this episode hits someone that needs it. If you're down and out, man, my DMs are open. I am always willing to help. And I was just going to say, I know, Chris, you're the same way. And guess what? I was down and out and I reached out to you and you said, no problem. I got you. 4 p.m. I was going through something and I thought it was worse than what it was. And I needed a check. I needed someone. And I reached out to you. I remember that. And we had that conversation and we had that session, and it really put me where I needed to be. It relaxed me. It was high tense, and I appreciate it. And
I'm honored to have been there for you, man. What other joy. I mean, that's the best thing you can do as a human, excuse me, to be able to be there for someone when they needed you and do anything that could make them feel better. So
absolutely.
I'm honored to
and
have been able to do that.
I hope when this goes out, everybody will smash our DMs, because one of the things that I love is to provide value. Most of the time when I'm doing and these episodes launch and people give me kudos, all I say is, man, all I want to do is create good content and provide value for people. 1 is better than 0 all the time. If I could touch 1 person, that's good enough for me. I don't need masses or anything. It's always, how can I provide value? And if I could touch someone, you know, that's what it is. Chris, man,
Same.
it's always a pleasure, and hopefully, I'm hoping that this year we get to link up. I think we're hopefully, I'm one shot away from being fully vaccinated, and that's going to happen next week. So I think we should meet up in Denver this year.
Sounds good to me.
Or
I'm always
next
looking for a
year.
reason to go to. I'm always looking for a reason to go to Denver.
Yeah, so that would be cool. I greatly appreciate it. Any last words to the Hack Chat citizens out there?
Oh man, unprepared. No, I mean, do your best. Work on self-love. Hit me up. I'm happy to chat with anybody about this stuff or hacker stuff. It's all the same to me. You know, they intersect, and I love that intersection. So yeah, hit me up.
Chris, thank you so much. Man, this is going to make waves, and I hope it does, and I hope it reaches you on time before, you know, before you get to that dark place of you don't think there's any hope. You listen to us and just reach out. You know, we're our DMs are open, and whatever we could do, I know we can help you, or just advice in general. So until next time, thank you, Chris, and all of you, thank you. Take care.